My husband owns an Etsy store, and I have been photographing his products in his Etsy store for, I think, the entire 8 years we've been together. And a lot of that stuff happens to be clothing. Now, when photographing clothing, I have a few specific tips that I think you'll find really helpful. So my first tip has everything to do with lighting. When you're photographing clothing, or any product for that matter, you really want to show the life of that product. You really want to show the texture of the material that it is. You want to show like every single detail of it as best as possible. And no matter what you're photographing, that always starts with your lighting. So I recommend a 2-light system. One is your key light, which is your main light. This is what's responsible for exposing the overall image, really highlighting the overall product. And then your secondary light, which is mostly just used to fill in the kind of like shadows and details a little bit. The reason I say to do the secondary light at 1/3 power compared to your key light is because you want a little bit of dimension with the whole image. If you were to have both lights at full power, it would be a little more flat. Which is fine, you know, it's a great well-exposed image that way. However, in order to get the real detail of the clothing and kind of like give the viewer a feel for the texture of the piece of clothing that they're going to be putting on their body soon, you want them to be able to feel it without actually being there. That's so much of online product photography. How can you help this person experience this product without actually physically holding it in their hand? This brings me to my next tip, which is to photograph every single detail possible about the garment. Some of these pieces of clothing are gonna have a zipper, they're gonna have something charming about them. You need to really convey that to the viewer. They need to be able to feel the texture, look at every little detail. Think about whenever you are shopping in a store. And if you haven't gone shopping in a real life store for a while, like me, then maybe you need to take a trip there to actually experience it. And if you were going to be buying that, what would you look for? You pick up the material, you look at it, you feel it in your hands. That's why we talked about the light earlier, to really convey the material that it's made of. But you also, if there's something interesting about it, you examine it. You really look at it and decide, you know, oh, this is cute. This is very me. I like that. Also, the tag, you want to always photograph the tag. So the more detail that you can give about the garment that they're trying to look at and feel without even being there, the better. And I think every detail matters of the garment, whether it's a hemline, whether it's the collar, whether it's the cute little buttons that are very much so clearly vintage. All of these things are important things that add character to the garment that you want to showcase, right? They need to be in the photo and they need to be photographed well, close up, really let that character of the garment shine. Now, this brings me to my third thing, which is the presentation of the overall product. I think of all retailers, we should probably look at Amazon for this sort of thing. A lot of Amazon products, or if you look at any other sort of high-end retailers, their online product photography is almost always stark contrast, the product with a white background or a very simple background, if nothing else. It doesn't have to be white, but it needs to be simple. So we're lucky enough that we have this nice brick wall here. The brick not only gives a nice size reference to the actual garment itself, but it also provides a little bit of an interesting texture without being overwhelming. Alright, so mid-shooting these products, I actually thought of another tip, a little bonus tip for you guys. To make the editing process as fast as possible and as efficient as possible, I highly recommend that you use the same settings for every single photo, because your lighting is going to be super consistent, assuming you're using studio lights. Your shutter speed, your aperture, and your ISO, and your white balance, all those things should remain consistent for the entire shoot. This is going to make editing way easier. You're literally going to be able to do the same edit on every single image, whereas if you're using auto ISO or you're using an auto white balance, those colors or those tones might shift a little bit as you go. So keep that in mind. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you love this video, please subscribe.
All done. High five.
Good job.
Thank you for getting all that together. All ready and steamed. Pro tip, make sure everything's steamed for your photographer beforehand. Some pieces of vintage are too special to put on the store, though.
Yeah, my mom's, we just had like central heating, like a normal person in like the 2000s.
Well, it's currently 2018, and this is what we're working with, so.
Well, still, you can adjust it from a thermostat my dad's, we used to get there in the winter, like when we got home after no one been there all night, the place would be freezing, and I would like, you could see your breath like so much, like for hours and hours after like getting there, even with the heat like rolling, because it didn't work through everything. And my dad, it's so funny because you'd have to ask him, and you need to record him saying it, but like he said something about like me being like, you know, Dad, you just have to do this, about like using so many blankets and stuff, and like
Aww.
basically developing my own technique and like creating something out of that, which is
You
so
make a
fun.
nest.
Kinda, but I'm just saying it's like so cute that like I had that situation and I like not only adapted to it, I also like, you know, went down the route of feeling like I had my own like tricks for it. You know what I
Aw.
mean? Like, and he like, I mean, he clearly thought that was like cute or funny or something because he still talks about it nowadays. So it's like